Hello there, welcome to the channel. Terence McGuana here, and today we're going to look at Silent Running from 1972. In the future, all plant life on Earth is extinct, except for what exists on giant domes carried on large spaceships. On one of these ships is Freeman Lowell, one of the 4 crewmen aboard and the resident botanist. The crew receives orders to destroy the domes, and Freeman blatantly refuses these orders, committing murder to protect the last forests of the earth from extinction. This film was requested by my old friend Paul Crowewolff, who lives in Sweden with his lovely wife Madeline. I haven't seen this gentleman in over 10 years, and I left some posts on my Facebook page promoting my 31 Days of Horror, and Crow eventually got in touch and it left lovely comments throughout my videos all throughout the month, and it was really supportive, really gave me the confidence to continue throughout that challenge. And thank you, brother, thank you so much. Now, I've known this gentleman for over 20 years, and we used to hang out every single day, and one thing that we loved more than ever was science fiction. You know, Star Wars, Buck Rogers in the 25th century. It was this man that got me right into Buck Rogers in the 25th century. I absolutely adore that television show, and I watch it at least once a year, the entire series. I pretty much know every single line of dialogue from that. Beady, 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 beady. When I asked him if is there anything you would like me to do, and he asked for Silent Running. Almost 50 years old, this film, and everything that it talks about, everything that it depicts, is so of the now. This film is terrific. I love Silent Running, and the strange thing is there's a lot of interesting history to this film. The man who directed it, Douglas Trumbull, he worked for Stanley Kubrick on 2001. Some of the most impressive special effects sequences in 2001 was because of this man. He is an absolute film pioneer. The stuff he's done in special effects from films such as 2001, this one, Blade Runner, it's just remarkable. The impact that he's actually had on the progression of film technique is just legendary. But yeah, Douglas Trumbull is just such a great film director. It's such a shame that he never fulfilled the potential of being a film director, because the next major film that he did, Brainstorm from 1983, which is another good film, not as good as Silent Running, that had so many production problems, including the untimely death of Natalie Wood, who was one of the lead actors in the film, which affected the insurance for the movie, I understand. So it really didn't get a very good release and made pretty much no money, and I think that pretty much put the end of Douglas Trumbull's chances of being a successful film director. And from what I understand, he went on to work on theme park rides and things like that. Remember the Back to the Future ride at Universal Studios? That was him. He put that together, and he's really instrumental in all these sort of higher frame rate film stocks, such as your 48 frames per second film stocks. Douglas Trumbull was doing that stuff in the 70s. Silent Running is an absolute science fiction classic, and it's from that period in the early 70s when there was a lot of science fiction films that were coming out that had a sense of social conscience to it. Another one that comes to mind is Soylent Green. Soylent Green is a classic film. I think that is a perfect film. In this movie, in Soylent Green, I feel would make the perfect sort of futuristic dystopia double bill. Now let's get into the actual ideas behind this film. Bruce Dern plays this main character Freeman, and his actual name itself actually gives a hint to the mindset of this character. We do find out that the Earth has no forests, has no gardens, so to speak, but for somehow that the Earth is still sustainable. They have the temperature on the planet is the exact same, the food is always the same, everything is really bland, so it's not like the human race is at risk here with these forests being out in deep space somewhere. Well, they're not out in deep space, they're flying past Saturn, and they're in the solar system, these gardens in these spaceships, and the Earth doesn't need them anymore. We find out that there's no need for this. We need these vessels to do other things. So let's get rid of them, let's get rid of these gardens. And Bruce Dern's character Freeman, he is the quintessential God's lonely man. He is up against everybody else. He's the only person that believes that this natural environment should be preserved, and he will die for it. He will kill for it. And it's kind of interesting. It's not talking about preserving nature in order to preserve ourselves, because really that's what the conversation is right now, isn't it? When we're talking about global warming, it's really self-preservation that we're thinking of. If all the bees go away, if all the fish go away, if all the trees, then we are doomed. We're doomed basically. If the polar ice caps melt, we're doomed, right? That's pretty much what's going to happen. The Earth is going to be fine, as George Carlin put it. The Earth's going to be fine, but we're going away. But in this film, which I find is really strange, is that if these gardens are destroyed, no one's going to be bothered. No one's going to care. It's the human race will go on. We have some sort of technology down on Earth that's keeping us alive, that's keeping the Earth sustainable. But what Bruce Dern, his character Freeman, is talking about is that we're going to miss out on all this beauty. We're going to miss out on all this wonder. Children are never going to be able to smell a flower again. And it does come across as sort of hippy-dippy in a sense. You know, that sense that this movie came out in '72. The 60s counterculture was winding down by that point, but there was this kind of feeling of, there was a lot of talk at the time about the environment. It became quite fashionable to be interested in the environment in the 1970s. And you know, just like Soylent Green is another environmental dystopia movie, I never really thought about this movie when I first saw it many years ago. I never really thought about what it's trying to talk about here. It's talking about the environment as something, I would say, like the dodo. Like, we're never going to see what a dodo looks like in person, right? We've seen pictures of it, there's like pieces of it in museums, but there's no actual physical, even taxidermied dodo. So he's arguing that nature is becoming like the dodo, and we should preserve it for that, just for its own sake, right? Not to preserve ourselves. And I found that quite an interesting idea, because the character in it, he is willing to kill for this. He's willing to do anything to preserve these gardens, these forests, from being destroyed. And that, in a sense, is all because of his own individual belief. It's all for himself. He really doesn't have any other motivation, I feel, than to be 100% correct. And that in itself I find quite hard to get by. You know, there are people in this world that are just so stubborn, they will not back down no matter what. And I'm not like that. I'm a person that I will back down, even if I'm right. Sometimes, if I'm in an argument situation, I think to myself, what is the way out of this argument? You know, there's got to be an end game here. But this character Freeman, he strikes me as a person that will never back down, that he's immensely stubborn. And whether he's right or wrong, that's debatable. And I think that's what some people think, that the environment is debatable. I personally don't. I think that, you know, global warming is 100% fact, right? And we should all do our part and do something about it. Especially massive corporations. Massive corporations need to be held accountable for the absolute damage that they do. You and I, with a couple of plastic bags, really isn't going to do much damage. But these massive corporations they are just killing the earth. Yeah, I really love Silent Running, and thank you Paul. Thank you for getting me to watch this one again. And I introduced it to my partner today. She was absolutely smitten by it. She'd never heard of this movie before, and she loved this film 100%. If you've never seen Silent Running, oh, you're in for an absolute treat. But be warned, it is a 70s movie, right? So it's a little bit slower. There's not a lot of action in this film, but there's a lot of sort of internalized drama from Bruce Dern's magnificent performance, and the special effects are just still almost 50 years later, still look incredible. Absolutely incredible. Douglas Trumbull, what an absolute legend. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscription button. And once again, Peace, love, rock and roll. Terence McGuana. Cheerio.